Bernardo Vega has worn many hats in his distinguished career. He is currently the president of the Fundación Cultural Dominicana, which has published dozens of important books on the Dominican Republic and on the Caribbean. He has served as the Dominican ambassador to the United States. He has served as governor of the Dominican Central Bank. He has been editor-in-chief of one of the Dominican Republic's most important papers, El Caribe. And above all, he has played a very prominent role as one of the Dominican Republic's leading intellectuals. In that respect, he's authored over 40 books on Dominican and Caribbean history, as well as on economics, archaeology, and other subjects, and most of these works are based on voluminous primary sources. Bernardo Vega is truly a formidable researcher. His books have uncovered and analyzed thousands and thousands of important archival documents, and his books have made an enormous contribution to the fields of Dominican and Latin American studies. While his work has tremendous range, he is perhaps most extensively published on the history of Haitian-Dominican relations. Recently, he has turned his attention to contemporary Dominican-Haitian relations, about which he will speak today. So please welcome Bernardo Vega. Thanks very much for coming.
Well, thank you for inviting me. You didn't mention it, but I used to teach at universities in Santo Domingo, so I feel quite at home. Although things have changed a lot since I taught. But no, seriously, I'm very glad you've invited me. And although I've only been a few hours here, I can see that this is a very vibrant intellectual community, even though the cold keeps it under control.
Yeah.
There are very few islands in the world shared by two countries. You can limit them to Cyprus, where they have the conflict between the Greek Orthodox and the Muslims. You have New Guinea. You have Timor with all its conflicts. You have Saint Martin in the Caribbean, which you cannot really tell when you're leaving Holland and going to France. You have Tierra del Fuego between Argentina and Chile. And that's just about it. There are very few other islands like the Hispaniola, which are shared by two different countries, the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Also, the Dominican Republic is the only Latin American country which obtained its independence not by fighting the Spanish army, but by fighting the Haitian army. Because Haiti, after its glorious revolt against the French and the freedom of the slaves, which is really one of the most dramatic events in the history of this hemisphere, in order to protect itself against France, it occupied the Spanish side of the island, and then for 22 years, and then the Dominicans revolted against the Haitians and won battles against them. It was 22 years of Haitian occupation of the Spanish side until we obtained our own independence. Even though subsequently we made a decision to go back, to give up independence and go back to be ruled by the Spaniards, and then we quickly changed our minds 2 years later, and then we fought the Spaniards, and we received a lot of help from the Haitians in that war of, we call Restauración. So there's this historical anti-Haitianism amongst Dominicans because of the fact that we were under Haitian rule for 22 years. And also there have been a lot of bloodshed between the two countries. There were Dessalines massacred Dominicans in 1805 as he left. His armies left Dominican territory, and then the dictator Trujillo massacred some 1,000 Haitians also in 1937. There's also a big difference in terms of territory. Haiti occupies about a third of the island. We occupy 2/3 of the island. And yet there was a time when there were 3 times more Haitians than Dominicans on the island. Now the demographics have changed in such a way that today the population of both countries are probably the same, 9 million people in each country, excluding those that live overseas, which are at least 10% of the population of each country. There are racial differences. Dominicans tend to be more mulattoes than blacks or whites. Haitians tend to be more blacks than anything else. But I think there's differences in language. Haitians tend to speak more Creole than anything else. Dominicans speak only Spanish, or our version of Spanish. And one of the main differences in terms of history is that slavery was much more cruel and predominant on the French colony, which was the most important French colony at the time in the 18th century, anywhere in the world, than the backwater that became Santo Domingo under Spanish rule, under Spain, which was very poor, and slavery was relatively dormant and mostly dedicated to raising cattle, which is very different from being a slave there than being a slave working in a plantation, either cotton or sugar. Yet, Haiti was much more important than the Dominican Republic until the mid-30s of the last century. It was more cosmopolitan. Its economy was stronger than that of the Dominican Republic. The first U.S. diplomats sent to the Dominican Republic were concurrent to Haiti. They were really in Haiti, living there. They came from time to time to the Dominican Republic. The papal nuncio lived in Haiti until 1948, and then came every once in a while to Santo Domingo. He was concurrent to Santo Domingo. So the world saw Haiti more important than the Dominican Republic, and it was in terms of its relative importance. My grandfather used to go to get his dental work in Port-au-Prince because it was better than that in Santo Domingo. And life in Port-au-Prince was more vibrant than in Santo Domingo at the time. When we had zero tourists in the 1930s and 40s, Haiti had a lot of tourism until the 1950s. We both shared a military occupation by the U.S. Marine Corps, Haiti from 1915 to 1934, we from 1916 to 1924, and under those occupations, there was a creation by the U.S. Marine Corps of modern armies, both in the Dominican Republic and Haiti. And in size, when the Marines left, there were the same number of soldiers with the same type of equipment. And that, of course, changed under the Trujillo dictatorship. But there was also that sort of similarity in terms of military power. But yet the Haitian economy, in terms of exports, value of export, in terms of fiscal revenue, was much more vibrant than the Dominican economy until the mid-30s. Anti-Haitianism, to differentiate it as a historical concept, but anti-Haitianism as a government policy existed twice, unfortunately, in the Dominican Republic. Once between 1942 and 1946 under the Trujillo dictatorship, where Trujillo became jealous and enemy of his former friend and protector, President Lescott. Trujillo protected Lescott and received money from Trujillo. And then it became government policy to attack Haiti racially. But in the background of it was only because of the personal enmity between Trujillo and Lescott. And second, in the 1980s and early 90s of this century, when President Balaguer of the Dominican Republic, who was essentially anti-Haitian, used the anti-Haitian history to try to eliminate, and he did, the candidacy of Peña Gomez, who was a Dominican of Haitian origin, and his parents were Haitians, to use anti-Haitianism to fight against his candidacy, and which he did, and unfortunately, with success. Also, the presence of Haitians in the Dominican Republic is very much linked to the issue of sugar. During the U.S. military occupation of 1916 to 34 in Haiti, 1915 to 34 in Haiti, that coincided with the First World War, and the destruction of beet sugar in Europe created a necessity for increasing sugar production elsewhere. It became a military commodity of importance, so the U.S. military presence in Haiti promoted an increase in production in the Dominican Republic of sugar, and therefore sending Haitian cane cutters to the Dominican Republic for that purpose. Also, it diminished pressure in Haiti against those Haitians that were rebelling against the presence of the U.S. military soldiers, specifically the Caco revolt, of which some of you might know about. So, though that started the use of the U.S. Marine Corps in Santo Domingo, organizing the reception of Haitian cane cutters, and the U.S. military on the Haitian side promoting it. After the military occupation finished, it was the Dominican soldiers who organized the importing of Haitian cane cutters, together with the private sugar mills, which are practically all U.S. owned, and also with the support of the Haitian military at the time. There was a lot of corruption involved. You had to pay people to get the Haitian cane cutters to come to the Dominican Republic. There were problems of repatriation of the cane cutters, especially during the Second World War, when there was a lack of fuel and vessels to bring them back, or fuel to pay for to be used in the trucks that brought them back. And eventually, when things changed, we did not do. And I say when things changed, because between 1915 and 1986, during 71 years, we did not have democracy on both sides of the island. From 1915, there was the U.S. military occupation. When it left in Haiti in 1934, there was the Trujillo dictatorship. When we got rid of Trujillo dictatorship in 1961, there was Duvalier-Père. And it was only after Duvalier-Père and Son were eliminated in 1986 that we were able to really go back to a situation which only existed prior to 1915 of democracy at the time. Meanwhile, in other sugar-producing areas in the Caribbean, things were handled differently. In Cuba in 1933, the Machado dictatorship ended, and the revolution, where the labor unions had a lot of influence, they adopted a policy of shipping the Haitian cane cutters and the Jamaican cane cutters out of Cuba, and from that date on, only Cubans cut their own cane, regardless of race. Because some people have the feeling that only Afro-Americans can cut cane. Well, you only have to go to Australia to find out that's not true. It's the descendants of the English criminals who were sent there who cut the cane. You go to Fiji and find out who cuts the cane. They are the descendants of people who came from India. And in Cuba, it's the Cuban whites, mulattoes, and blacks who cut the cane. In Haiti, there's been no army since 1988. So therefore, the elements to bring the Haitian cane cutters, that part of the elements disappeared. And since then, it's been sort of a private transaction between private individuals on Haiti, the owners of the sugar mills in the Dominican Republic, and the Dominican military involved. And that creates all kinds of pressures and abuses. It's very interesting that Trujillo, who organized the massacre of Haitians in 1937, by the 1950s had become the biggest employer of Haitians in the Dominican Republic, because he bought the American-owned sugar mills, nearly all of them, and created his own. And yet when we eliminated Trujillo in 1961, these sugar mills became owned by the state. So the Dominican government, through its state-owned agencies, became the biggest employer of undocumented Haitians into the Dominican Republic. Now there are no longer any publicly owned sugar mills. And in fact, sugar production, as in the rest of all the Caribbean islands, including Cuba, has gone down substantially from 800,000 tons to 400,000 tons. But still, there's the issue and the problems of Haitian cane cutters in the Dominican Republic. As you all know, Haiti in the last 15 years has suffered tremendously politically. It's been described as a failed state. The United States sent troops under the Clinton administration twice, And after that, the United Nations has had blue hats troops from many, many countries, including African countries, in Haiti, and Haitians being very nationalist, yet they have accepted the fact that for a while they still need the presence of the United Nations troops there. As a detail, the biggest presence of foreign military under the United Nations sponsorship there are Brazilians. It's the first time that people from Latin America are getting involved in the issue of Haiti, mostly Brazilians and also Argentinian troops and Chileans. And this I want to link with the issue of U.S. migration policy. The United States has placed the island of Hispaniola, which is shared by Haiti and the Dominican Republic, in brackets, in the sense that in the Windward Passage you have U.S. naval vessels, including Coast Guard vessels, physically there to stop Haitians from crossing illegally to Florida. And you have American vessels in the Mona Passage to stop Dominicans and others crossing into Puerto Rico. So the pressure to move from one side of the island to the other is within the island because of the impossibility of going elsewhere. And the treatment of Haitians who arrive in Florida is very different to that of Cubans. Under U.S. legislation, a Cuban who physically touches soil in the United States has a right to go to a judge and request to be admitted, and 99% of them do, while the Haitians or Dominicans are not subject to that type of treatment. And that leads to a lot of discussion whether you're living a dictatorship in Cuba or a lack of human rights in Cuba, and whether in Haiti that situation did not exist because of the violence predominant until very recently in the poor neighborhoods of Haiti. You probably remember the presence of various thousands of Haitians in Guantanamo when there was a massive move of Haitians trying to get to Florida. The United States placed them in Guantanamo before sending them back to the United States. The European community has been very reluctant to accept migration from Haiti. So in essence, not because the Dominican Republic is the best place to go to, because obviously anywhere else the Haitian would be better off, but because it's part of the island, it's very easy to cross. It's 380 kilometers, most of it without any sort of military presence to watch it because it's mountainous. Then the Haitians have been crossing over to the Dominican Republic to find work, and some of them were, when there was violence in the 1980s, they came under United Nations sponsorship as political refugees, because if they got back to Haiti, they could be subject to all kinds of repression. Now they're no longer any political refugees, they're just economic refugees. This is relatively similar to the situation that has been occurring between Nicaragua and Costa Rica. All the civil war in Nicaragua in the 1970s and 80s provoked a big influx of Nicaraguans into Costa Rica, but there the treatment by the Costa Rican has been much better than the Dominicans for reasons that I will explain later. It's also, you can in some way correlate it to the Mexicans crossing in an undocumented way into the United States. While in the past, and when the past I mean from 1915 to the 1980s, Haitian migration to the Dominican Republic was limited to the sugar industry, and in a sense they were invisible to the most Dominicans, because to find it you would have to go into the sugarcane areas, and within the sugarcane plantations there are so-called batallas, which are little villages where the Haitian cane cutters live under very precocious circumstances. In today's world, and today, very few of the Haitians are anymore in the batallas. They're working in very other parts of the Dominican Republic, and that makes their presence physically visible in urban areas as well as in rural areas. You find Haitians work in the tourism sector, in the in the agriculture, in the non-sugar agricultural sector. You find them in the construction industry, elsewhere. It is estimated, although there are no statistics, that about 1 or 10 persons in the Dominican Republic are either Haitian or Dominicans of Haitian origin. There are tremendous numbers of problems. For example, we have denied them citizenship, even though a person is born of Haitian parents on the Dominican soil, they're denied under Dominican law citizenship. Children of Haitians born in the Dominican Republic are not allowed to go to school because they don't have any documents, even though we are a signatory, like all the other countries of the world, to United Nations conventions under which children have the right to go to school regardless. It took us 5 years discussion in Congress to pass a new migration legislation. And there was so much division between the legislatures that the law is so full of contradictions that it was supposed to be solved by a reglamento. How do you call a reglamento?
Decree?
No. You have a law and the bylaw. Okay, the bylaws of the law. Well, they never been passed. So in essence, migration legislation exists in the books, but it's not practiced. And even now, we've just spent 8 months changing the Constitution, and the most, beside abortion, the other very controversial issue was whether we would change the legislation so that a person born in the Dominican Republic would be a Dominican regardless who their parents were, or whether they would have to have Dominican blood in order to be Dominican citizens. And the solution that was reached is not satisfactory either. Now, the presence of Haitians in the Dominican Republic, like any other presence of big groups of migrants, has economic effects, which we cannot deny. The major effect, in a negative way, is that it eliminates pressures for salaries to increase. In other countries, like in the United States, the labor unions are the ones that oppose most immigration. Labor unions in the Dominican Republic are very weak. So the fact that so many are there to work and accepting any type of salary to work decreases measures, and there's a World Bank report showing that also it contributes to the worsening income distribution in the country, although there are many other factors that have to do with that. There's still also another negative factor is that if there was no Haitian presence, there would be mechanization of the sugar industry. In the United States, the sugar industry mechanized during the Second World War when African Americans went to participate in the war, and there was a shortage of labor in Alabama and Florida, and then they started mechanizing. Because there are no limits to the presence of Haitians in the Dominican Republic, that industry does not mechanize. And it won't until either salaries increase or fuel costs go down, so mechanization becomes cheaper than even paying the very low salaries that are paid to Haitian cane cutters. Because 95% of the cane cutters are Haitians or Haitian descent. There's still very serious problems in the batallas. I don't know whether you've seen a film called Sugar Babies that has to do with that issue. Although in theory a Haitian cane cutter can leave the batey now, it wasn't like that in the past, and find work elsewhere, the fact that he has no documents and doesn't know the country doesn't help him really to go and find work, let's say in the tourism sector or in the construction sector. A very interesting issue is the attitude of the Dominican diaspora towards this issue. You talk to a Dominican in New York, says, how come we're not giving schooling to Haitian children? You think we undocumented Dominicans here in New York are not allowed to go to school? You think we're not allowed to, even though we're documented, to receive services in the hospitals? We are the Haitians in New York. How come we treat the Haitians that way? It's a totally new attitude from which is, it can be very well explained and it's logical, because it's a diaspora discussing the issue of another diaspora. And that eventually, I think, will have political repercussions. Some of these are Dominican academics who are in universities, and they go back there and present the situation in a new light. The fact that all of the Dominican sugar exports go to the United States under legislation which makes the Dominican Republic the country that receives the biggest U.S. sugar quota will eventually have repercussions, to the extent that public opinion here would say, how come we're buying sugar from a country where it's cut under those conditions? We had that example in the textile industry, where the textile companies here that sent their cloth to the Dominican Republic to be shipped back as clothes insisted certain treatment be done in our factories so we would avoid exploitation or unhealthy type of labor relations. So that's an issue that might happen eventually. But I want to mention to you, just to show you the difference of how the Haitian presence today differs from the situation. The traditional situation is, well, these were just people who were cutting cane in the Dominican Republic and doing nothing else. And this change has only happened since 1988, roughly. Flaxo, which is a very well-known Institute of Social Studies in Latin America, how do you call Flaxo in English?
Flaxo.
Flaxo, okay. Well, you know. It started in Chile, has office in Costa Rica. They did recently a survey, a poll amongst Haitians living in the Dominican Republic, all over. And the results are very interesting. 75% are men. They come to work, they're mostly men, but 25% are women. Before it was 100% men. 49%, that is roughly half, send money back to Haiti. They're remittances. Before, the Haitians would go back, the cane cutters would go back with no savings, because there were no savings. They maybe they have a cock with them to cross over the border. But now 49% send remittances through banks. They don't send a fellow across the border, they send it through banks. 62% travel to Haiti once a year. So it's a seasonal type of migration. And they still maintain their links in Haiti. In the sugar industry, it was just during the sugar cane cutting period, the Haitians came and they would send back by the owners of the sugar mills themselves. Now they come and go by themselves. 76% arrived within the last 5 years. So this is the effect of these very serious political problems in Haiti. 95% have had their parents born in Haiti, so they're very recent migrants. Only 9% have been recruited. Recruitment is the system of the Buscones, the Haitians and Dominicans work on both sides of the border. You give them a commission. You want 200 Haitians to cut cane. You want 200 Haitians for coffee or cacao, and they make money out of this. Now, only 9% come recruited. 91% came by their own. Their own means they just cross the border. Maybe they have a friend on the other side. They come in groups. They know where to go. And at least that type of exploitation is being reduced substantially. But only 6% have a Dominican personal identity card. So they're there without any documents. Only 2% have been able to get a Dominican passport, which means they're Dominican, or have been able to forge documents showing they're Dominicans, because that also exists. The poll also tried to ask where they worked first when they arrived. 39% went to work in the construction industry. That includes the hotels, which have been built on the beaches, and also in the city of Santo Domingo. And there they have substituted basically all Dominican labor in the construction, except certain type of very specialized work. 19% went to work in agriculture, but non-sugar agriculture. Coffee, cacao, tobacco, sugar. Coffee, cacao, tobacco, rice, which are the main staples. Only 16% came originally to work for sugar. But some of them immediately, if they are smart and they know their way, they leave the sugar battalions to go and work elsewhere. 30% read and write in Spanish. First, they can read, they can write, which is very important. And then 30% do it in Spanish. 68% speak Spanish. They learn very quickly. 57% went to school in Haiti. This is not just the poorest of the poor in Haiti. These are people who, from all different areas of Haiti. Before, they used to come just from Jacmel, a couple of places. Now, they come from all over. 54% say they're Catholic. 25% say they're Protestant. Only 3% say they practice voodoo, which is the popular religion in Haiti. Now, when I was a child, I don't want to tell you how many years ago it was, but I was a child. It was under the Trujillo dictatorship. You would hear these things, The Haitians will not come as an army anymore like they did in the 19th century, because we have now a very tough army under Trujillo. But they will come in an invasion, just crossing the border, and we will all end up practicing voodoo and speaking Creole. That's the mentality of the time under the Trujillo dictatorship. The Haitian migration does not affect, in a cultural sense, Dominicans at all. It affects in an economic sense, but certainly all these old ideas have proven to be totally wrong. 85% consider themselves Haitians. Very few consider themselves Dominicans. 57% prefer to marry Haitians, and only 13% prefer to marry Dominicans. 61% have never been asked for papers in the street, because it's a very lax situation, and they're protected by their employers. 57% have never been apprehended, despite the fact that they're undocumented. Only 18% have been captured in a migration raid. Now, I'm the first to admit the exploitation by the Dominican Army, the armed forces in general, against Haitians. They ask for money in order for them to cross over the border. There's something called the peaje, which is, in English, it would be a toll. Where you want to go? I want to go to that. You have to give me $3. No, I'm going beyond that. That's $4. Those that are subject to a raid and want to go back, if they have money, they pay, and they don't have to be in the raid. Before, the Dominican Army people didn't want to live in the border. It was very far away. The agriculture was poor. Now, because of this source of money, they want to go there. It's a way to make money, unfortunately. Unfortunately, Dominicans don't know how to deport in a civilized way. So the Dominican Armed Forces don't know how to deport in a civilized way. Or the Dominican Migration Department doesn't know how to deport in a civilized way, complying with international standards. In comparison with places like the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos, which have a big Haitian presence, and you have never heard a criticism of the way they deport, because they know how to do it. The people are allowed to go back to their home and get their belongings, to get their family. They can go before a judge, etc., which is not the case in the Dominican Republic. Only 16% of those interviewed said they'd ever been deported. 34%, however, said they've been molested by the army, which means, they've been molested by the army when going back to Haiti. And 80% of that 34% were asked for cash. So, yes, they are molested, and it's a way for the army to make money at the expense of the poor Haitians. Just last week, there was an opinion poll in the Dominican Republic, a Gallup poll. And one of the things that was asked was, do you want the Haitians to stay in the Dominican Republic? Do you object to them? Should they be deported? Should they be allowed to become Dominicans? All the usual questions. Now, I've been doing those questions in part of the pollings I've been doing since 1981. And as time passes and the presence of Haitian increases and they're physically more, you can see them more in the urban areas where they weren't there before, those expressions of anti-Haitianism have been increasing, unfortunately. And this last poll just shows that. Let me say something about the economic issues that also have to do with Haitian presence. Haiti has become the second biggest market for Dominican exports after the United States. When the Americans sent troops under the Clinton administration, was it Clinton? Nixon? I don't know, the first one.
Clinton.
The first or the second
Clinton.
one? Clinton. They also pressured the Haitian government. Those were the days of liberalization, to eliminate all import duties on goods and live from foreign aid, from remittances and telephone call bills, and get cheap food from abroad. There's proof, for example, the Texas Rice Growers Association lobbied for that. And now Haiti is one of the biggest sources of U.S. exports of rice worldwide. So that has meant that the production of rice in Haiti, especially in the Artibonite Valley, has gone down. You can argue that the Haitians are getting cheaper rice than their own local rice. But anyway, that policy of free imports meant that Dominican goods could go into Haiti as long as they competed freely with goods from Colombia, Panama, or Florida, or Miami. And we have taken over the market for those products whose freight is very high vis-a-vis its cost. Not only do we send cement and steel, 30% of our production of eggs end up in Haiti because the freight is very high vis-a-vis its cost. So it's the second biggest market for Dominican products, and there's little to offset in terms of products coming in from Haiti to the Dominican Republic, because there's no production of importance in Haiti except artisanship, which is produced in Haiti to be sold to tourists who come to the Dominican Republic, or produced by Haitians in the Dominican Republic for the tourist market, which is very good. And there is those things that do come across are things which are not produced in Haiti, but they come from elsewhere. For example, some of the food that is donated to Haiti ends up being sold by Haitians to the Dominican Republic. Or if suddenly the price of rice is very cheap vis-a-vis our production, their shipments of rice. It could be other way. We can ship rice to Haiti when the world prices go up. Something which has been common to all Dominican governments in the last 30 years, be it Balaguer, be it the PRD under Hipólito Mejia, be it the PLD under Leonel Fernandez, they've all taken an attitude in the last 30 years of asking for the rest of the world to help economically Haiti as a way to reduce the pressure for Haitians to migrate to the Dominican Republic. It's selfish attitude, but it makes sense when it's done. And some things have started to happen which are showing that Haiti reached bottom at least 5 or 6 years ago politically. There's much less violence in Haiti. The kidnapping of people has stopped. You can practically go anywhere in Port-au-Prince and elsewhere, walk around without any fear. I did it. I went there a month and a half ago, and the situation is much improved since the past. The U.S. Congress passed a legislation under which textiles assembled in Haiti can be shipped to the United States under conditions which, if they're not from Haiti, don't exist. So you're not seen yet a big increase in the production of textiles in Haiti, but I think it's on the way. Until 1982, Haiti produced much more textiles than we did in the Dominican Republic, because it's a much lower cost. The day there's stability in Haiti, Haiti can become like sort of the Hong Kong of the Caribbean, where you can take everything, assemble it with low labor costs, and ship it back to the States. And nobody can compete in Latin America in that area. President Clinton has been appointed by the United Nations as former President Clinton has been appointed by the United Nations as somebody to promote foreign investment in Haiti. And he went to Haiti. He's been there various times. The last time he went there, he took about 150 potential investors to invest in Haiti. And I've always thought, and I've been publishing this subject since 1966. My first book had to do with that. What joint projects can the Dominican Republic do with Haiti, starting from very obvious ones. We have a bay, which is common to both in the north, which can be shared. But tourism, the day there's more stability in Haiti, you can have tourism to the island of Hispaniola. You can take a car from Santo Domingo now, and you're in Port-au-Prince. Depends how long they stop you in the border. If you have good contacts or enough money, you cross the border very quickly, and you're in less than 4 hours from Santo Domingo to Port-au-Prince. And the route is very interesting from a tourist point of view. You can stay over in Barahona. So it makes a lot of sense. And even today, tourists who go to the hotels in Puerto Plata, they take different tours. And one of the tours is, we take you to Haiti. But they put them on a bus, and 5 hours later, they're in the little market in the border where the Haitians come over to sell goods. And they take photographs because they find it attractive. So the day that tourism can go to Haiti like it used to do in the 1940s and 50s, and through the Dominican Republic, you'll have a tourism of contrast, which I think is very interesting. There are a number of Dominican businessmen who are very successful in the tourism business. They know exactly where they want to put their hotels in Haiti. They know exactly who their business partner in Haiti are going to be, and they're just waiting for the occasion for this to happen. I wrote an article about a couple of years ago. Its title was Haiti Saudi. Now, it sounds very nice, but the essence was, what happened if a lot of petroleum was found in Haiti? Like in Saudi Arabia. And all the Haitians can go back to Haiti and live from Social Security, just like the Saudi Arabians do. And Dominicans would become maybe the workers there, like the workers from Bangladesh are in Saudi Arabia. But in essence, the message was, what if there was so much money in Haiti that Haitians could live without even working or with a lot of Social Security, and they all left the Dominican Republic? What would happen to the Dominican economy? The immediate effect would be an increase in salaries, the collapse of the sugar industry, the collapse of other agricultural sectors, unless they're mechanized. But essentially it was an increase in salaries, and maybe some industry would not be viable. There was a lot of reaction to that article. I said, well, is there petroleum in Haiti? That's the first I just haven't focused. But just a theoretical way to prove this issue. No? Dominican employers openly favor the presence of Haitians in the Dominican Republic. They do it through the newspapers. Those are, the workers in Dominican employers in rice, coffee, cacao, tobacco, construction. They all publicly favor because they know that if they're not there, they're going to have to increase their salary, the salaries of Dominicans who would go there to work. Not a single Dominican employer has been taken to court and penalized for violating laws that prohibit the hiring of undocumented persons or hiring more than X% of your labor force which is foreign. These are laws that existed for many years. So that is a non-issue, let's put it this way. What makes things more complicated, to make it even more complicated, is that not only do we have Haitians coming across the border and going across the border without much control, which should not be a big issue. It's the problem of drugs also. Because of the political instability in Haiti, for a time there's a lot of the drugs from Colombia would go to Haiti and from there to the Dominican Republic because once the drug arrives in Haiti, it's easier to get the drugs into Haiti than the Dominican Republic because we have more of an army and navy, etc. But once you get drugs in Haiti, how do you get it to the United States? Any ship of any size that goes into Miami from Haiti is searched from top to bottom. We have thousands of containers from the textile industry and other re-exports, so it is to take them there. So that's another problem that creates a difficulty because for the first time we have pressure from the U.S. government to be more strict in the border, not related to the Haitian presence, but to Haitian to drugs. But it's the drug comes somehow from Haiti, either carried in a mule or inside a container, But it also has to do with the issue of Dominicans that migrate, undocumented Dominicans who migrate to Puerto Rico by taking the boat. Now, before it was just Dominicans to take the boat. Now, when they're captured, you will find Chinese, you will find Haitians, and then you'll have the U.S. government say, hey, Haitians getting illegally into the United States to Puerto Rico after September 11th. Ooh, they could be Nubians. They could be from Sudan. These might be terrorists. So that's another new issue that's come around. As if Dominicans couldn't look like terrorists also, but anyway, that's another issue. So the drug issue is also, before, for example, I would champion publicly that Dominicans could take a boat and go to Puerto Rico if they could get away with it. I would publicly say, you know, we obligate tourists who go in a little boat to do some snorkeling or just to run around the beach. They have to wear a life jacket. Couldn't we get any NGOs to give life jackets to Dominicans who are going to the peril to their life to go to Puerto Rico? And many of them drown, they can't swim. But now, the bulk of the business of these boats that go to Puerto Rico is to make money on the drugs. The people, the human cargo is less lucrative than the drug issues today. But I'm optimistic that all these issues, the worst has been over. These issues are going to work themselves out. There's one good example to close before questions of how we can work together to employ people in Haiti. A Dominican textile group realized it couldn't compete with China shipping textiles to the United States or Vietnam after the multi-fiber agreement was expired. So they said, well, let's set up a factory on the Haitian side of the border, but right there across the border, 10 feet across the border, and employ Haitians in the labor-intensive part of the industry, and then ship it back to Santiago, which is 2 hours by truck, and do the more sophisticated or capital-intensive part there, and we'll ship it to the United States. And now they're employing 3,500 people across the border in Haiti. Now, if we can multiply that, set up factories in Port-au-Prince to ship to the textile to the Dominican Republic to finish, or just direct to the United States, Haiti has the potential, if there was political stability, to really become again a bigger exporter of textiles than the Dominican Republic, as it was in the 80s. A bigger source of tourism than the Dominican Republic was until the 1980s. That, together with the remittances from the Haitian diaspora, which are huge, Haiti essentially lives from foreign assistance, remittances, and what the telephone companies collect from calls being made by Haitians abroad. I think this issue of the non-viability of Haiti as a country will very quickly disappear. Thank you.